Season 2, The Unfinished War. Chapter 1, Deku's Disappearance. Where did he go? Why is he gone? Death-Defier wondered to himself while sitting in a chair on the balcony of his house, looking out onto the sea of the island. Deku had been gone, disappeared for about a month now. Molly now lived in a house far away on the island. Sorak had left the island in search of battle and exploration, and Flashback had not been seen for quite a while. Death-Defier feels alone, almost abandoned, but he wouldn't let himself feel as though everyone left without reason. Deku must have disappeared for a reason, he believed. Something must have happened to him. Death-Defier stood from his chair and walked into his house. For the next 3 days, he was writing plans, evidence, and facts onto his wall, which all gave evidence trying to lead to an answer. Where is Deku? Death-Defier thought to himself, there is only one place that Deku could have gone if he disappeared. To Flashback. The only problem with Death-Defier's thought about this is that the only known base was Flashback's base in Weeping Woods, but it seemed abandoned because Flashback hasn't been to that base for quite a while. But then again, no one has checked to see if he ever came back to that base. Death-Defier went down his stairs and stopped at a door. Behind the door was his basement, which had things he hadn't used in quite a long time, ever since the old war. Death-Defier took out a key card from his pocket in the long coat that he had and put it up to the scanner. The door immediately unlocked and opened. Death-Defier walked through the door and into his basement, locking the door behind him. Inside of the room of his basement were weapons, vehicles, things from the old war. His signature sniper was still in place, unmoved. The last time he used that sniper was in a battle against Sorak and Flashback, around a week after Deku had gone missing. He walked past his cars, grenades, and other weapons and went toward something very large and powerful standing straight right in front of him. His old suit of armor, unbreakable and extremely powerful. He put the suit on, grabbed his old sniper and some other weapons, and left the basement. He flew his suit of armor towards Weeping Woods, the old base of Flashback. As he landed there, he noticed something different than he normally would have noticed. There was a figure moving inside, a person of some kind. Death-Defier flew up from the ground and slammed into the wall of the base, breaking it down. He landed inside as he did it, and looked up from the ground to see the face of Flashback holding a bot grenade and 72 more in his backpack that he also held. Flashback spoke. Death-Defier, what are you doing here? Death-Defier replied, what did you do to Deku? In response, Flashback said, surprisingly, what? Death-Defier yelled at Flashback, you heard me! Death-Defier charged Flashback with his suit, pushing him back into the wall of Flashback's own base. Death-Defier punched Flashback again and again and again. Flashback kneeled on the ground. He spit out blood, then looked and faced Death-Defier, who towered above him. Flashback softly said to Death-Defier, you just made a huge mistake, pal. Flashback took both of his hands and formed a surge of energy, Before Death-to-Fire could stop him from doing it, Flashback had already punched Death-to-Fire, sending him and his suit through the roof of his own base and into the atmosphere instantly. Death-to-Fire didn't know how to react completely to it that fast, but the freezing temperatures of the atmosphere were freezing his suit as he continued going up. He realized he had to do something. Soon enough, however, it did stop, and he did come tumbling down. The flame of the atmosphere now started burning through him and his suit as he came tumbling down like a fireball into Flashback's base, straight through it and to the bottom of the base and through the ground, forming a crater. Death-to-Fire could barely stand from what had just happened, but he'd still tried to. He crawled towards a large rock at the bottom of the crater he had made from the impact, and used it to stand up, but noticed something. A piece of his unbreakable suit had fallen off. From there, another piece fell, then another, and soon almost every piece, every part of the broken suit had fallen off. The suit would not work anymore. It had been destroyed. Death-to-Fire looked up from the crater he had made below Flashback's base. Flashback stared down at him from above. Flashback jumped down and into the crater. He punched Death-to-Fire, who was no longer in his suit. As Death-to-Fire fell on the ground from having been punched by Flashback, Flashback said, "Now I don't know where Deku is. I haven't seen him, or you, or anyone, for that matter, in weeks." Death-to-Fire said in response, "You're lying. You did something to him." Flashback said in response to Death-to-Fire, "You honestly think I know where Deku is? I could have shown you where, and I could have shown you all around my base, but you broke into my base, and you fucking destroyed my wall. Look at this crater!" Death-to-Fire yelled at Flashback, "Where the hell is Deku?" Flashback yelled back in rage, "I don't fucking know." Death-to-Fire stood and stared into Flashback's glowing purple eyes. Death-to-Fire said to Flashback, "You really don't know where he is?" Flashback replied to him, "If I knew where he was, and if I were holding him hostage, I would have already used him to my advantage by now to get more power. Why don't you know where he is? Weren't you, him, and Molly trying to plan some random thing to kill me like always?" Death-to-Fire took the remaining parts of his destroyed armor off of him and threw it all on the floor. He said to Flashback, "I haven't seen Deku in weeks. Molly has been missing too. I'm so sleep deprived, I'm so tired, I don't know where they are." Flashback yelled at Death-to-Fire, "So get a grip and find them." Death-to-Fire looked disappointed as he slumped to the floor, and said to Flashback, "I have no idea where they would be. And why do you even care? You want to kill them anyways." Flashback motioned to Death-to-Fire to stand up. He said to Death-to-Fire, "We are at war, but at any time a peace treaty can be made for a few days, at least just a few days. It doesn't mean the war would go away, but it would mean that it briefly stops. Me and Deku used to know each other very well. He was an ally in a lot of wars, especially between me and Sorak when he was here. I could have helped you find him, but you broke into my base and destroyed the whole goddamn thing." Death-to-Fire politely asked Flashback, "So, will you help me find him?" Flashback took 2 steps behind him and looked at Death-to-Fire dead in the eyes, saying, "Of fucking course not." Flashback jumped into the air and out of the crater, looking down at Death-to-Fire from above. Death-to-Fire yelled to Flashback so that Flashback could hear him, "Should have known. See you later, Flashback." Flashback did say to him one last thing. I do hope you find him. I still have a lot of unfinished business, and I do miss him. Good luck to you, Death-to-Fire. See you soon. Flashback walked away from the area, leaving Death-to-Fire in his crater below. This was Chapter 1 of Season 2 of The Unfinished War. Stay tuned for Part 2. Thank you for listening.